Assalamu alaikum everyone. In the part 2 of general principles and processes of isolation of elements, we'll be discussing about the extraction of crude metal from the concentrated ore. In the previous session, we have learned about the different methods of concentrating the ore. We'll go to the second part, that is extraction of crude metal from concentrated ore. Now, extraction of crude metal from concentrated ore we carry out in two steps. First, we need to convert the ore into its oxide form. Let the ore be maybe in sulfide form or hydrated form or any other form. The aim will be will convert that different type of ores into their oxide form so that it becomes easy for converting the metal oxide to metal using suitable reducing agent. So this step includes two further steps. First, converting the concentrated ore to oxide form, then रिडक्शन ऑफ द मेटल ऑक्साइड टू मेटल. नहीं कि कोई भी चीज़ अगर आप कुक कर रहे हैं, कुछ पकवान बना रहे हैं, तो शुरुआत में हम क्या करते हैं, उसको पकाने से पहले थोड़ा बहुत जो है इसमें स्पाइसेस वगैरह ऐड करके उसको थोड़ा तैयार करते हैं. तो यहाँ पे भी वैसे ही है. पहले स्टेप में हम कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड और कुछ ऑक्साइड फॉर्म में चेंज करेंगे ताकि उससे आप मेटल इजीली हासिल कर सके. सो फर्स्ट स्टेप, converting concentrated into oxide form. It is carried out again by two methods. One is called as roasting, the other one is calcination. Roasting is a process where the concentrated ore is heated to a high temperature below its melting point in presence of excess of air, that is in presence of excess of oxygen. और जो भी आप कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड किए हैं उसे आप हाई टेम्परेचर उसके मेल्टिंग पॉइंट से कम टेम्परेचर पे हीट करेंगे और एक्सेस ऑफ एयर सप्लाई करेंगे ताकि उसमें जितने भी सल्फर इम्प्यूरिटीज है या कोई दूसरे इम्प्यूरिटीज है वो अपने ऑक्साइड फॉर्म में चेंज होकर वोलाटाइल फॉर्म में लिबरेट हो जाते हैं. जैसे कि एग्जांपल, जिंक ब्लेंड ZnS, it reacts with oxygen upon heating and forms zinc oxide, liberating sulfur dioxide gas. Same way, galena and cuprous sulfide, they are all treated with oxygen and they are converted into their oxide form, liberating sulfur dioxide gas. So this roasting is commonly employed for sulfide ores because easily the sulfur impurity converts into sulfur dioxide gas and it will escape out from that ore and the ore is converted into its oxide form. Let's see what happens during this roasting. First of all, we have discussed just now, sulfide ores are converted into oxide. Moisture and volatile impurities are removed. If there is some water content or some organic matter present with the ore, they are also removed out. This process is carried out in reverberatory furnace, and during this process ore becomes porous. Porous in the sense it becomes lightweight and it will be having holes on its surface so that further removal of metal from that oxide ore will become easy, and this ore will give more response for the further step reactions. Calcination, the other method applied for carbonate or hydrated ores. Roasting is commonly applied for sulfide ores, whereas calcination is applied for carbonate or hydrated ores. Here again the same thing, it is the heating of concentrated ore to a high temperature below its melting point in absence of air, that is in absence of oxygen. Means here the whatever concentrated ore is there, it will be heated or it is decomposed. When it is strongly heated below its melting point, whatever hydrated part is there in the ore or any carbonate part is there in the ore, they are removed out in the form of volatile impurities. Like example, hydrated oxide of iron, it is the ore of iron. When upon heating, you will get the iron oxide and water escapes out in the form of gas. In the same way, calamine, zinc carbonate, after concentration when you heat it, you will get zinc oxide liberating carbon dioxide gas. Another ore, dolomite, which is a mixture of calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. Upon heating, you will get calcium oxide, magnesium oxide, and it gives out carbon dioxide gas. Here also the same thing happens. Ore becomes porous, moisture and volatile impurities are removed. This is also carried out in reverberatory furnace, and this method is commonly for carbonate and hydrated ores which are converted into their oxide form. So while after concentration, when you go with the roasting and calcination, you have to check whether it is a sulfide ore. When it is a sulfide ore, roasting is preferred. When it is a hydrated or carbonate ore, calcination is preferred. So by two methods, you can convert the different types of concentrated ore into their oxide form. This is a diagram of the modern reverberatory furnace. Earlier, they used to dig in the earth crust and they used to have fire bricks inside and heating was carried out. Now, this is the electrical type of reverberatory furnace where roasting or calcination is carried out. Coming to the second part of the extraction of metal from the concentrated ores. First, we have seen roasting and calcination. Now, after roasting and calcination, we have to reduce the metal oxide to metal. Means you have to remove the oxygen. Removal of oxygen from a substance, we call it as reduction. So that process can be done by these different types of metallurgical processes. It depends on the type of ore we have, we apply suitable type of reduction process. Let's see one by one. Pyrometallurgy. Pyro relates to heat. In this case, you will be heating the roasted or calcined ore to a high temperature above their melting point using a suitable reducing agent, by which you will get the metal and the oxide form is removed out in the form of suitable gas. When you talk about hydrometallurgy, it is a process where the roasted or calcined ore will be dissolved in a suitable solvent where the impurities remain in the solution and the metal part comes out in the form of precipitate by suitable displacement methods. Electrometallurgy, it is a process where the principle of electrolysis is applied, where you will be passing electricity through an electrolytic solution either in molten form or in a suitable aqueous form, depends on the type of process you are carrying out, where you will be applying the process of electrolysis. And the other method is self reduction or auto reduction. In this case, either heating process will be carried out to remove the oxygen, or the metal itself, it will be undergoing self reduction. The metal oxide itself will be undergoing self reduction. And the last one, aluminothermic process, where aluminium powder will be used as a reducing agent. So these are all the different techniques by which the metal oxide will be reduced to its metallic form. I have given some examples over here. Pyrometallurgy commonly applied for iron or zinc. Hydrometallurgy especially for gold, silver, or sometimes for low grade copper. Electrometallurgy especially for the alkali and alkaline earth metals, and along with that aluminium also is extracted by electrometallurgical process. Self reduction or auto reduction, here also we apply for silver extraction, mercury, copper and lead, they are all self reduced. And aluminothermic process applied for the extraction of chromium, manganese or even sometimes iron. Just now we have seen pyrometallurgy. It is a process where the concentrated or roasted or the calcined ore will be heated to a high temperature above its melting point using a suitable reducing agent. Now when you talk about that method, we need to select a suitable reducing agent for a given metal oxide to be reduced. For that sake, we follow some graphical representations which are called as Ellingham diagrams. Ellingham diagrams are graphical representations that relate standard free energy change and temperature for the formation of various metal oxides, sulfides, chlorides, or some other form of metal. Especially, we learn Ellingham diagrams for the formation of various metal oxides. You can see a graphs over here, so many graphs of formation of different metal oxides, and we can see along y-axis we have the standard free energy change, Gibbs energy change delta G naught, and here we are having the temperature scale in Kelvin. We have studied in thermodynamics, for a process to be spontaneous, delta G should be negative, and for a process to be non-spontaneous, delta G should be positive. The same principle will be applied over here also for the formation of metal oxides. हम यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं अलग अलग मेटल ऑक्साइड के ग्राफ्स है. अगर स्टार्ट यहाँ से करेंगे, मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड फॉर्म हो रहा है. हियर द मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड इज फॉर्म्ड. हियर वी कैन फाइंड डेल्टा जी इज नेगेटिव. Again we have aluminum oxide, it is also negative, and when you go up, the delta G naught value is becoming lesser and lesser negative, and finally when you move up it reaches 0. Then you will be having positive value above this zero boundary. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि अगर कोई मेटल ऑक्साइड फॉर्मेशन का ग्राफ ज्यादा नेगेटिव है तो वो मेटल ऑक्साइड फॉर्मेशन या मेटल ऑक्साइड की स्टेबिलिटी ज्यादा होती है. Because when delta G is negative, the process is said to be spontaneous, and when delta G becomes less negative or positive, the process becomes non-spontaneous or non-feasible. तो इसमें अगर यही थर्मोडायनेमिक प्रिंसिपल अप्लाई करेंगे तो सबसे ज्यादा स्टेबल मेटल ऑक्साइड यहाँ पे रहेगा मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड, और सबसे कम स्टेबल लीस्ट स्टेबल यहाँ पर ऑक्साइड रहेगा कॉपर ऑक्साइड. Because the most negative value of delta G is for magnesium oxide graph, and the less negative value of delta G for the metal oxide is for copper oxide graph. So based on that we can say stability of this magnesium oxide is more compared to this. Meaning is when delta G is more and more negative, stability will be more, the process will be spontaneous, and when it is less negative, the process will be less spontaneous or non-spontaneous. इन एलिंगम डायग्राम्स के पहले कुछ फीचर्स डिस्कस करेंगे, इसको कैसे यूज करना है, कैसे रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट सेलेक्ट करना है. देन विल कम टू नो for a particular metallurgical operation or process which is a suitable reducing agent. First of all, I'll take up some of the graphs. I have taken a metal oxide formation graph, and other are the carbon to carbon dioxide formation graph, carbon to carbon monoxide formation graph, and carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide formation graph. So based on these graphs, we'll come to know the nature of graphs obtained in Ellingham diagrams. एलिंगम डायग्राम में हम देखें ऑलमोस्ट ऑल ग्राफ्स सभी स्लोप ऊपर के तरफ होते हैं, ऑल विल स्लोप अपवर्ड्स. व्हाट इज द रीजन बिहाइंड दैट? सो लेट्स सी बाय टेकिंग द एग्जांपल ऑफ आयरन ऑक्साइड. ए मेटल इज कंबाइनिंग विद oxygen and you are getting iron oxide. So when you discuss the Ellingham diagrams for the formation of oxides, we consider 1 mole of oxygen reacts with a given metal. So here if you take a general equation, I have taken Gibbs-Helmholtz equation which will help us in getting the knowledge of whether a process is spontaneous or non-spontaneous, and at what temperature it will be spontaneous and at what temperature it will be non-spontaneous. So Gibbs-Helmholtz equation is given as delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. पहले एक एग्जांपल लेता हूं अलग अलग मेटल ऑक्साइड फॉर्मेशन के लिए. 2M solid plus O2 gas gives 2MO solid. Now combination of a substance with oxygen is taking place. It is a type of oxidation or combustion. So all combustion processes we take exothermic. So we'll take delta H as negative. Then when you talk about delta S, entropy change, delta S is for entropy change, and here for getting the entropy change you will check the number of moles of gaseous product, NP, number of moles of gaseous product minus number of moles of gaseous reactant. When you check this equation, you don't have any gaseous product, means 0, and you have 1 mole of gaseous reactant. So 0 minus 1 minus 1, so delta S is negative. So in this process, enthalpy change is negative, that is, the reaction is exothermic, whereas entropy change is negative, the entropy is decreasing. So if you put out these values in the Gibbs equation, you will get delta G is equal to minus delta H plus T delta S. Here we assume delta H and delta S to be almost constant. Now the variable quantity will be this temperature. Now based on this relationship, delta G can be negative or it can be positive. It can be negative at low temperature, because when the T value is less, definitely this value, if it is greater, you will get negative. With the increase in temperature, T delta S becomes more and more positive, due to which delta G you will get positive. Hence, when free energy change is negative, the process is spontaneous, and when it is positive, the process will be non-spontaneous. It is spontaneous at low temperature and non-spontaneous at high temperature. We can see over here, this is the metal oxide. Formation of metal oxide, the delta G value is negative at low temperatures. With the increase in temperature, delta G naught value is increasing, means it is becoming less negative or it is moving towards positive direction. ये relationship इस सब्सटीट्यूशन यहाँ पे या जो हम वैल्यू सब्सटीट्यूट करें, इससे क्लियरली मालूम हो जाता है कि मेटल ऑक्साइड्स का फॉर्मेशन लो टेम्परेचर्स पर स्टेबल है या स्पॉन्टेनियस है, और हाई टेम्परेचर्स पे ये मेटल ऑक्साइड अनस्टेबल हो जाते हैं. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि अगर आप टेम्परेचर कंटिन्यूसली इंक्रीज करते जाएंगे, ये मेटल ऑक्साइड्स अनस्टेबल हो जाएंगे, फिर से डिकम्पोज होके अपने मेटालिक फॉर्म में चेंज हो जाएंगे. Means they will lose oxygen and convert into metal. Means here we'll get one idea that you can convert a metal oxide to a metal by heating to very high temperatures. इस रिलेशनशिप से हमको ये पता चलता है कि जितना आप टेम्परेचर बढ़ाते जाएंगे, ये मेटल ऑक्साइड के ग्राफ पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन ऊपर की तरफ मूव होते जाएंगे. जब ये जीरो बाउंड्री क्रॉस करेंगे डेल्टा जी का, तब ये अनस्टेबल हो जाएंगे और खुद ब खुद जो है डिकम्पोज होके मेटल फॉर्म में चेंज हो जाते हैं. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि मेटल ऑक्साइड्स को आप मेटालिक फॉर्म में चेंज कब कर सकते हैं? हाई टेम्परेचर कंडीशंस. देन coming to the next graph, formation of carbon monoxide from carbon. Now we can see this is the graph. We can find almost all graphs which are of metals, they will be sloping upwards. You have two graphs. One is carbon monoxide from carbon, which is sloping downwards, and one more graph we have formation of carbon dioxide from carbon, which is parallel to temperature axis. First we'll discuss about this carbon monoxide from carbon. So when you go with the equation, we can see that again combination with oxygen, enthalpy change will be negative, it will be exothermic, and entropy change, it is positive because we have 2 moles of product. Np is equal to 2 and Nr is equal to 1. 2 minus 1, 1 means delta S is positive. Now it is an important relationship. Whenever enthalpy change is negative, entropy change is positive, the process is always spontaneous. Means if you substitute those values in the Gibbs equation, you will get delta G is equal to minus delta H and minus T delta S. Both are in negative terms, so you will get delta G always negative, let it be a temperature low temperature or high temperature. Means इससे ये मालूम होता है कि कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड का फॉर्मेशन लो टेम्परेचर पे भी स्टेबल है, हाई टेम्परेचर पे और ज्यादा स्टेबल हो जाता है, क्योंकि टेम्परेचर बढ़ाने से ये ग्राफ नीचे की तरफ आ रहा है. क्यों नीचे की तरफ आ रहा है? जितना आप टेम्परेचर बढ़ाते जाएंगे, ये पार्ट उतना ही नेगेटिव होते जाएगा. When it becomes more and more negative, answer also will become more and more negative. That's why this graph of carbon monoxide from carbon always slopes downwards, means its stability, its spontaneity, its feasibility increases with increase in temperature. It will be intersecting almost all the different types of metal oxide graphs. Coming to the next one, formation of carbon dioxide from carbon. We can see the equation here. 1 mole of oxygen is combining with carbon to produce carbon dioxide. Again, delta H we take it as negative, whereas delta S, Np minus Nr, 1 mole of product, 1 mole of reactant, 1 minus 1 is 0. So entropy change is 0. When entropy change is 0, delta G becomes equal to only minus delta H. Means it will be no doubt negative, but it is independent of temperature, because T delta S is 0 means you are left out with only delta H. So we can see the graph why it is parallel to temperature axis. It is parallel to temperature axis since entropy change is 0. So when entropy change is 0, with the increase in temperature, there will be no effect on the standard free energy change value, because it will be equal to minus delta H. One more graph, it is same as that of the metal oxide graph, that is the formation of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide. Again, combination with oxygen, delta H negative, and when you talk about entropy change, Np minus Nr, we have 2 moles of product, whereas 3 moles of reactant, gaseous reactant. 2 plus 1, 3 moles of gaseous reactant. 2 minus 3, minus 1. So delta S is negative. So you will get delta G negative at low temperature, and when temperature is increased, this part becomes greater. So delta G becomes positive at high temperature. Means the formation of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide. Remember, carbon dioxide formation from carbon monoxide, it is stable at low temperature, whereas it becomes less stable at high temperatures. So this is the way how the graphs shown in Ellingham diagram, they slope either downwards or upwards. The only graph which slope downwards is the formation of carbon monoxide from carbon, whereas other metal oxide graphs, they all slope upwards. They all will be sloping upwards. There are some graphs which will show some deviations, like for example, there is a zinc oxide graph or magnesium oxide graph. Initially they will just slope upwards, and again sudden rise will be there in the graph. This changes in the graph, we indicate that those metal oxides are converted into their liquid form or they are converted into their vapor form. Sudden changes in the graph indicates that that particular metal oxide has changed into liquid form or it has changed into its gaseous form. Now these things will apply one by one for understanding how to select the suitable reducing agent. In the first part I have told you, with the increase in temperature, these metal oxide graphs slope upwards and finally they cross the zero boundary here. When they reach positive section, there they decompose again into metallic form. They are self-reduced into their metallic form, but that requires a very high temperature. And industries, they try to save their processes, that is they want to make their process very economical. So they want to save the energy, they want the process to be very less expensive. For that sake, instead of maintaining very high temperature and converting the metal oxide to metal, they opt for selecting a suitable reducing agent. They go with selection of suitable reducing agent. How to select that reducing agent is, say for example, if this is a graph of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide and this is the graph for iron oxide. If you want to select a suitable reducing agent over here, the graph which is lying below, that species can be used as a reducing agent for reducing the metal which is present above. अब जैसे कि यहाँ पे हम देख सकते हैं कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड फॉर्म होने वाला ग्राफ आयरन ऑक्साइड के ग्राफ के नीचे है, यानी कि इसका डेल्टा जी नॉट वैल्यू इससे कम है। तो जो भी नीचे ग्राफ होते हैं वो स्पीशीज को आप ऊपर वाले मेटल ऑक्साइड को रिड्यूस करने के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं। जैसे कि FeO को आप Fe में चेंज करना है तो आप कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आप ये दोनों रिएक्शंस ऐड करेंगे, इनके फ्री एनर्जी वैल्यूज ऐड करेंगे, अगर आपको वैल्यू नेगेटिव मिलता है तो ये स्पॉन्टानियस प्रोसेस हो जाएगा और तब इस कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड को आप जो है रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट के जैसा यूज कर सकते हैं। अगर आपको एडिशन करने के बाद डेल्टा जी पॉजिटिव मिलेगा तब आप इसको आप रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट के जैसा यूज नहीं कर पाएंगे। तो होता क्या है, अक्सर जब भी आप ऊपर वाले ग्राफ को आप रिवर्स फॉर्म में लिखेंगे, क्योंकि आप इसको रिड्यूस करने वाले हैं, रिड्यूस इन द सेंस ऑक्साइड विल बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू iron, that is FeO will be changed into Fe. So if I reverse this reaction, you can see some value over here, that is minus 400 kilojoule per mole, it will be becoming positive plus 400 हो जाएगा। अब इस वैल्यू में अगर आप कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड प्लस O2 ये रिएक्शन का डेल्टा जी वैल्यू ऐड करेंगे, ये माइनस 500 है, तो 400 माइनस 500 यू विल गेट माइनस 100। तो होता क्या है, जब भी आप ऊपर वाले ग्राफ को आप रिवर्स, ऊपर वाले रिएक्शन को आप रिवर्स करेंगे तो डेल्टा जी वैल्यू भी रिवर्स हो जाएगा। उसमें अगर आप ये उसके नीचे वाले इक्वेशन को या फिर प्रोसेस को ऐड करेंगे तो फाइनली आपको जो रिजल्ट आएगा डेल्टा जी का वो नेगेटिव आएगा। अगर आप इसको रिवर्स करेंगे ये बन जाएगा 500, इसको एज इट इज ऐड करेंगे तो ये रहेगा माइनस 400। सो 500 माइनस 400 विल बी गिविंग यू 100, मीन्स डेल्टा जी यू विल गेट पॉजिटिव, मीन्स upper graph element, the upper graph metal cannot be used as a reducing agent for bottom metal oxide, whereas a bottom metal can be used as a reducing agent for upper metal oxide। जितने भी नीचे के तरफ ग्राफ्स हैं मेटल ऑक्साइड्स के, उस मेटल को आप ऊपर वाले मेटल ऑक्साइड्स के लिए रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट के तौर पे यूज कर सकते हैं। कुछ एग्जांपल्स we'll see some more graphs of metal oxide formation in this Ellingham diagram। यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं हम, first if you talk about this one mercury graph, this one silver graph, these are all the different types of graphs। like here this one is for calcium, this is for magnesium, ये ग्राफ मैग्नीशियम के लिए है और ये ग्राफ जो आता है एल्यूमिनियम के लिए है। This graph is for chromium, then iron, then one graph they have shown that will be coming for carbon monoxide which is sloping downwards। This is just some other way they have given। अब यहाँ पे कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स लेता हूँ। फर्स्ट ये एग्जाम्पल लेंगे, this one is for magnesium, they have given here formation of magnesium oxide, and this is for aluminium। now we can see here, यहाँ पे लो टेम्परेचर रेंज पर मैग्नीशियम ग्राफ नीचे है और एल्यूमिनियम ग्राफ ऊपर है। मैग्नीशियम की स्टेबिलिटी, मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड की स्टेबिलिटी एल्यूमिनियम से ज्यादा है, क्योंकि डेल्टा जी नॉट वैल्यू मैग्नीशियम का बहुत ही नेगेटिव है और एल्यूमिनियम का लेस नेगेटिव है। इट मींस यू कैन यूज मैग्नीशियम एज ए रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट टू कन्वर्ट एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड टू एल्यूमिनियम। अगर आप ये एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड के रिएक्शन को आप रिवर्स करके लिखेंगे तो ये नेगेटिव वैल्यू पॉजिटिव हो जाएगा, और उसमें ये मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड ये रिएक्शन ऐड करेंगे, ये एज इट इज रहेगा, तो 1000 एंड माइनस 1200 you will get minus 200, delta G value you will be getting negative, means the process is spontaneous, means when you combine this reverse reaction and this reaction you will get process as spontaneous because delta G is becoming negative। रिवर्स करने से क्या होता है, एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड एल्यूमिनियम में चेंज हो जा रहा है, उसमें हम क्या मिला रहे हैं, मैग्नीशियम रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट की तरह करेगा। रिवर्स करने के बाद ये ऑक्सीजन कैंसिल हो जाते हैं, तो मैग्नीशियम से आपको मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड मिलेगा, एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड से आपको एल्यूमिनियम मिलेगा। सो व्हेन यू कंबाइन एंड राइट, यू विल राइट द इक्वेशन एज 2/3 Al2O3 plus 2Mg gives 2 MgO plus 4 by 3 Al. So when you combine these two equations, delta G will be negative. Meaning is a low lying graph. Always that metal can be used as a reducing agent for higher metal oxides. नीचे वाले ग्राफ का मेटल ऊपर वाले ग्राफ के मेटल ऑक्साइड को रिड्यूस करने के लिए आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. When you go with the temperature increase, यहाँ पे हम देख सकते हैं, यहाँ पे मैग्नीशियम का ग्राफ थोड़ा स्लोप ऊपर हो रहा है, इट इज स्लोपिंग अपवर्ड्स, और यहाँ पे एल्यूमिनियम का ग्राफ है, मीन्स ये नीचे आ गया. पहले अराउंड 1500 डिग्री सेल्सियस magnesium was lying down, aluminum was above 1500, magnesium is above, aluminum is at the lower side. Meaning here is, at this high temperature you cannot use magnesium as a reducing agent. Now you can use aluminum as a reducing agent to reduce magnesium oxide. यहाँ पे पूरा उल्टा हो जाएगा क्योंकि एल्यूमिनियम का ग्राफ नीचे है, तो एल्यूमिनियम मेटल मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड को रिड्यूस करने के लिए आप यूज कर सकते हैं. सेम वे व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट दिस ग्राफ इज फॉर क्रोमियम. क्रोमियम को रिड्यूस करना है तो आप कैल्शियम यूज करो या मैग्नीशियम यूज करो या एल्यूमिनियम यूज करो. दे आर ऑल suitable reducing agents because all are lying below chromium graph. For chromium extraction, we prefer aluminothermic process where aluminum powder is used as a reducing agent. आयरन का ब्लास्ट फर्नेस में डिस्कस कर लेंगे, और यहाँ पे और कुछ ग्राफ्स देख सकते हैं, मर्क्यूरी और सिल्वर. Here you will have a graph of copper and above that you will have mercury and silver graph. So if you check this graph, you will find that at very low temperature you are having the formation of these oxides. At this particular temperature these oxides are formed where their delta G value is high, means less negative, meaning their stability is less. These oxides of these oxides of silver and mercury, they are all less stable because their delta G naught value is high. Now if you want to convert their oxides into their metallic form, you are having these many options. These all metals can be used as a very good reducing agents, but the metallurgists go for an alternate to make the process economical. What they do is they go through this Ellingham diagram. In the Ellingham diagram we can see at a temperature of around 500 or 700 or nearly to 1000, mostly above 500, you can see graph of mercury and silver, they cross the zero boundary. Their delta G value is becoming positive. When delta G value becomes positive, the process will become non-spontaneous or the metal oxide will become unstable. Means when they cross this zero boundary, when delta G becomes positive, they become unstable, they themselves decompose into their metallic form. यानी कि आपको यहाँ पे कोई भी reducing agent यूज करने की जरूरत नहीं है, ये खुद ब खुद थर्मली डिकम्पोज हो जाते हैं. They are self decomposed, they are thermally decomposed by heating process. That is, when you increase the temperature above 500 degrees Celsius or 700 Kelvin, that time these metal oxides, they themselves convert into their oxide metallic form. From oxide form they change themselves into metallic form. Means no other type of reducing agent is required. So we called it as a self reduction or auto reduction. Means by just thermal decomposition these metal oxides can be changed into metal. We'll discuss some applications of Ellingham diagram where they are applied in the extraction of different metals from their ores. First we'll discuss extraction of iron from hematite ore. Now hematite ore is Fe2O3. It contains different gangue particles. It can be concentrated by gravity separation method or magnetic separation method. Then roasting is carried out mainly to remove all the volatile impurities and to make the ore porous. Then coming to conversion of oxide to metal, it is carried out in a blast furnace where the roasted ore, that is hematite ore, limestone, calcium carbonate and coke carbon are fed in the blast furnace through cup and cone arrangement. The mixture of hematite ore which is roasted, limestone and coke, we call it as charge. Here the role of limestone is as a flux. It acts as a basic flux to remove the acidic silica gangue particles present in ore. Here calcium carbonate upon heating produces calcium oxide, which acts as a basic flux, and it combines with silica SiO2 to produce calcium silicate. And the role of coke is it acts as a source of fuel, and it helps in getting the carbon monoxide, which is used as a reducing agent. In the process, let's see how to select the reducing agent for reducing the oxide ore of iron. Now here in the Ellingham diagram, we can see that we have the graph of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide, the graph of carbon monoxide from carbon, and the graph of carbon dioxide from carbon. And here we have the oxide of iron. The blue line is the oxide of iron. Now at the temperature of around 1073 Kelvin or near to 1200 Kelvin, we can say that the graph of CO2 from CO, that is the graph of carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide, is lying below the graph of this metal oxide, that is ferrous oxide. Means this shows that this low lying species can be used as reducing agent for this iron oxide. Means carbon monoxide can be used as reducing agent to reduce FeO to Fe. Since when you add up the equations, if you reverse this equation, say for example here you have FeO, it is changing to Fe plus O2, delta G is become positive. And when you add up one of the equation, like if you take carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide value only minus 500, if you take over here, net value will get negative. Here they have added the this graph value, but you can add up this one at the lower temperature conditions. So we can say that when you add up these two equations, the reactions, the delta G naught value will be negative, means the process will be spontaneous and it can take place at this temperature range. Now with the increase in temperature, we find that the carbon dioxide graph from carbon monoxide slopes upwards, it goes above iron graph. Means that time above this particular temperature, that is around more than 1200 Kelvin temperature, carbon monoxide cannot be used as a reducing agent, because if you add up the values of these two reactions, delta G naught values, if you add up, you will get positive delta G naught value, which is non-spontaneous. Instead, we have two graphs which are lying below iron oxide graph, that is carbon monoxide from carbon and carbon dioxide from carbon. Means when they are lying below iron oxide graph, carbon, that is coke, can be used as reducing agent above 1200 Kelvin or more than 1200 Kelvin temperature. Hence we can conclude that in the metallurgy of iron, at low temperature of around 1000 to 1200 Kelvin, carbon monoxide can be used as a reducing agent, and at a temperature greater than 1073 Kelvin, coke or carbon can be used as a reducing agent. So in the blast furnace, we will be taking the charge, that is a mixture of hematite ore, roasted and concentrated, limestone, calcium carbonate, and coke will be inserted through this cup and cone arrangement. This is a blast furnace which is lined inside with fire bricks. And here we have an outlet to take out the molten slag, another outlet to take out the molten iron, one outlet at the top to remove the waste and exhaust gases. As soon as the charge is feeded, hot blast of air is passed, due to which the carbon, the coke which is present in the blast furnace, combines with the oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. Initially the blast furnace temperature will be maintained around 1500 Kelvin, but due to this reaction, formation of CO2 is an exothermic reaction, the temperature rises to around 2200 Kelvin. So once this carbon dioxide is formed, it moves to the upper part of the furnace, where it will react with some more amount of coke and forms carbon monoxide. This is the main important requirement because it is used as a reducing agent over here. So this carbon monoxide is formed when carbon dioxide produced combines with coke, and it is an endothermic reaction. The temperature will reduce at the top regions. So at low region temperature is high, at the upper region the temperature will be low. Now At the upper part, whatever oxides of iron are there, due to low temperature, as we have discussed here, carbon monoxide will be used as a reducing agent at low temperature. So at the upper region, oxides of iron are reduced by carbon monoxide. This equation, and even this equation we can see here, carbon monoxide is acting as a reducing agent. It is converting the oxides of iron finally to iron. At the same temperature, like in and around 800 to 1000 Kelvin, this limestone will decompose and form calcium oxide. This calcium oxide combines with the silica gangue particles to form slag, and this takes place in this region around 900 to 1500 Kelvin. Calcium oxide combines with silica to form molten mass, that is slag, that is calcium silicate. This silicate will be flowing down to the bottom part of the furnace. At the same time, whatever iron which is formed due to reduction by carbon monoxide, it also comes and collect in molten form at the bottom part of the furnace. First, molten iron will be accumulated, and above it, so molten slag will be floating on its surface because of its light weight. Formation of slag layer above the molten iron surface prevents the iron to come in contact again with oxygen. It helps in the prevention of oxidation of iron again due to the combination with oxygen. So once the process completes, molten iron is taken out from this outlet. It is collected in suitable containers called as pigs. That's why we call it as pig iron, and the slag is removed through this outlet. And whatever exhaust and waste gases are there, they are removed from this outlet. So this upper region where reduction takes place, we call it as a reduction zone. In the middle region, slag formation takes place. We call it as slag formation zone. And at the bottom region where fuel is burned, the coke is burned to produce CO2, we call it as combustion zone. So from this blast furnace, you will get pig iron, which contains about 4% of carbon, and it contains some impurities like sulfur, phosphorus, silicon, and manganese in small amounts. If you want to reduce the percentage of carbon, again this pig iron is treated with coke and iron scrap, where it is further reduced to 3%, and that time whatever iron we get, we call it as cast iron. And to reduce still further the percentage of carbon, we again carry out the oxidation process by adding coke and iron scrap. That time you will be getting a purest form of iron, which is called as wrought iron, which is also called as malleable iron, which contains around 0.08 to 0.1% of carbon. Next example we'll discuss, that is extraction of zinc from zinc blende, that is ZNS. First of all, zinc blende, as it is a sulfide ore, it is concentrated by froth flotation method. Then we'll carry out the roasting. As it is a sulfide ore, we carry out roasting where we remove the volatile impurities and sulfur is removed in the form of sulfur dioxide, and the ore is made porous. Then conversion of oxide to metal. To understand this part, we'll go again with the Ellingham diagram of zinc oxide. So this is the red one which I have been marked. This is the formation of zinc oxide. Delta G naught value and temperature is given. So it slopes upwards, and finally a sudden upward direction change is there in the graph. That is because here the zinc oxide melts. So due to the increase in entropy, there will be a sudden upward direction deviation of this graph. Now here it is found at this part of the Ellingham diagram. Below that you can find magnesium and aluminum. Different other metals will come which can be used as a reducing agent. As we have discussed earlier, a low-lying species can be used as a reducing agent for the upper metal oxides. But here, instead of going with these metals, as metallurgists go with some alternate ways where the process should be economical, they prefer either carbon or carbon monoxide as the reducing agents. So if you go with the carbon and carbon monoxide graphs here, first this graph, carbon dioxide from carbon monoxide, it is lying above zinc graph. Means it will be intersecting somewhere here in and around 1600 Kelvin temperature. Till that temperature, you can't use carbon monoxide as a reducing agent. For zinc, carbon monoxide cannot be used as a reducing agent till this temperature. When you talk about higher temperatures, here you can find this graph, carbon monoxide from carbon. This graph is intersecting at this particular temperature. Means after that temperature, the carbon monoxide from carbon is coming down and the zinc graph is moving up. Even this graph where carbon dioxide formed is from carbon, that is also lying below zinc graph. So hence we can conclude that at higher temperatures, at a temperature of around 1600 to 1700 Kelvin, coke can be used as a reducing agent, since in Ellingham diagram the carbon monoxide from carbon and carbon dioxide from carbon, those graphs lie below zinc oxide graph. Whereas below that temperature they are lying above, whereas above that temperature these carbon graphs will be lying below zinc graph. Hence coke can be used as a reducing agent to reduce zinc oxide to zinc metal. So this is the way how we select and we use coke as a reducing agent in the extraction of zinc from zinc oxide. So in the conversion of oxide to metal, the zinc oxide will be taken in a retort, a type of furnace where the roasted ore with coke and small amount of clay will be taken, silica, which will be used as a flux over here to remove some basic gangue particles. These are all mixed and converted into a briquettes, means brick-like structures, and they are heated to a high temperature of around 1673 Kelvin. At this temperature, whatever zinc oxide is there, it will combine with coke at this and forms zinc, and carbon monoxide is given out. As it is a low boiling metal, it will vaporize, it will come out in the form of vapors, and it is collected in another container where it is rapidly cooled to get in solidified form. Next, extraction of copper from copper pyrites. Copper pyrites are the sulfide ores of copper. Here copper is extracted by self reduction or auto reduction method. Again, when you go to the Ellingham diagram of copper, here we can find this copper oxide formation graph. Here it is above. It is above all the different types of metal oxides. Still above copper you will be having mercury and silver graph. Now based on this location we can say that this copper can be easily reduced by these all metals. Along with metals, carbon monoxide, carbon, they all can be used as reducing agents. But here the metallurgists they go with alternate way, and one of the again a limitation of this Ellingham diagram is we get the idea of selecting reducing agents, which is a good reducing agent, at what temperature it can be used. But limitation is that Ellingham diagrams will not give us the idea about the kinetics of a reaction for a given particular extraction of a metal. If you are using suitable reducing agent, you will not come to know with what speed the reaction is going to take place. So metallurgists they check out, they analyze all the reactions, and finally whichever process is economical they go with that method. So here also instead of selecting reducing agents from the Ellingham diagram, we go with some alternate method. That is, first of all the sulfide ore is there, so it will be concentrated by froth flotation method. Then roasting is carried out. During roasting in the reverberatory furnace, when you pass on oxygen, that is roasting is carried out in presence of excess supply of air, that time silica is also added. The purpose of adding silica over here is this ore contains sulfides of iron also, and we need to remove this iron sulfide or iron oxides which are acting as impurities. So to remove first of all oxides of iron, that is ferrous oxide, which will be basic in nature, it has to be treated with acidic flux. So first sulfides of iron will get oxidized due to roasting and they convert into ferrous oxide, and that ferrous oxide combines with silica to form slag, and that slag is nothing but iron silicate slag or ferrous silicate slag. Left out mixture will be nothing but which is it is called as copper matte, which is mainly containing cuprous sulfide and ferrous sulfide. Small amount of ferrous sulfide will be again left out, and this mixture, that is copper matte, it is taken to a next container which is taken called as the silica lined converter, where all these following reactions takes place. Here what we do is, why we take silica lined converter is, whatever left out ferrous sulfide is there, again it is oxidized to ferrous oxide first. Later on, the ferrous oxide combines with the silica lining of the converter to form slag. This is the way how we remove the complete oxides of iron from this mixture. So first reaction shows how ferrous sulfide is oxidized to produce ferrous oxide, gives out sulfur dioxide gas, and that ferrous oxide combines with the silica lining and produces slag, ferrous silicate slag. Next, the Cu2s left out of the copper matte, it oxidizes itself to copper oxide. Here what happens is, this cuprous sulfide, it is partially oxidized, partially roasted or partially oxidized to produce cuprous oxide. Once the cuprous oxide is formed, it will combine with the left out cuprous sulfide to produce copper. Here we are not adding any different kind of reducing agent. Due to partial oxidation, you will get cuprous oxide. The same cuprous oxide combines with the remaining cuprous sulfide to produce copper, liberating sulfur dioxide gas. This copper is called as blister copper, as it is having blistered appearance due to the liberation of this sulfur dioxide gas. It contains some impurities like gold, silver, antimony, selenium, which are removed finally by electrolytic refining method. Next is extraction of gold and silver by hydrometallurgical method, which is also called as leaching method or oxidation reduction method, and it is named after a scientist, that is MacArthur Forrest cyanide process. So gold and silver, they are already available in native form, but they contain some gangue particles which are removed by this leaching method. In this method, first initially gold will be oxidized and it forms a complex, a soluble complex, and later on in the second step, in the complex will be treated with powdered zinc, where zinc displaces the gold or silver from the complex, and you will get gold or silver in the form of a precipitate. So in the first step, gold or silver is leached or treated with dilute solution of sodium cyanide or potassium cyanide, and air is passed, due to which gold or silver will turn into a sodium or potassium cyanide complex. Later on, that complex solution will be taken out and it will be treated with powdered zinc. Zinc displaces gold or silver and you will get a precipitate of gold or silver. So here in the first step, gold or silver undergoes oxidation. They lose one electron, that is Ag is there, means it becomes Ag plus. If it is Au, it will become Au plus. Whereas in the second step, they undergo reduction, where zinc acts as a reducing agent. In previous part, we have discussed about copper, which is extract from copper pyrites. Even if you have copper in low grade ores also, that is also extracted, because as it copper is very important metal, so it is not left out in smaller quantities also in different types of ores. Now when there is very low percentage of copper in some ores, it is removed again by hydrometallurgical method, that is by leaching with suitable electrolyte like acid or by some organic matter like bacteria, where you will be getting cupric ion solution. This will be treated with either hydrogen gas or scrap iron, where they reduce this cupric ions to copper metal. When you talk about the electrochemical series, in electrochemical series, species with low E naught value act as reducing agents and higher E naught value act as oxidizing agents. Same principle is applied here. Hydrogen E naught value is 0 and iron E naught value is minus 0.44. So copper is having E naught value as 0.34. So easily hydrogen or iron can displace higher SRP value species from their solutions. The same thing happens here. When you pass hydrogen gas in cupric solution, it will come out in the form of copper metal precipitate. And if you add up scrap iron, pieces of iron in cupric solution, copper will be displaced from the solution. You will get the copper metal. Instead of iron, we can prefer zinc also, because zinc is having still lower E naught value than iron. Iron has minus 0.44 volt, whereas zinc has minus 0.76 volt as its E naught value. But as zinc is more costlier than iron, it is advisable and preferable or advantageous or economical process to use iron scrap instead of zinc. Iron scraps are used to reduce cupric ions to copper metal, because zinc scrap is costlier than iron. Next is extraction of aluminium from pure alumina by electrometallurgical method. Another important method of extracting metals from their ores, that is electrometallurgical method, where we apply the principle of electrolysis. This process is generally called by a name Hall-Hérold's process. Now in this method, when you get the pure alumina from leaching process from oxide ore, that pure alumina will be taken in a steel vessel here. This steel vessel is lined with carbon, and that lining acts as cathode. Graphite is taken in the form of anode, which are introduced in this steel vessel. An outlet is there for taking out the molten aluminium. In this molten aluminium, we add up another substance, that is cryolite, Na3Al(F6), or you can add up calcium fluoride. The role of this cryolite is it reduces the melting point of the mixture, lowers the melting point of the mixture, and it increases the conductivity of the mixture. If you don't add cryolite, it requires more energy, more amount of heat for melting this alumina. For that sake, cryolite is added. So role of cryolite is it lowers the melting point and increases the conductivity. When the electricity is passed, electrolysis takes place, that is the cations will move towards cathode and the anions will be moving towards anode, and their charges are removed, that is they either undergo oxidation or reduction. At cathode, reduction takes place, and at anode, oxidation takes place. So here we have the equations of what happens at cathode and anode. First of all, at anode, that is at graphite anodes, whatever alumina which contains oxygen part, the oxide part, the melt part, it undergoes oxidation, it loses 2 electrons, and that oxygen combines with carbon, that is the graphite, and forms carbon monoxide. Further, the reaction continues, that is two oxide ions will lose totally 4 electrons and forms oxygen gas. Immediately that oxygen gas combines with the graphite anode, that is carbon, and forms carbon dioxide. So as soon as the electrolytic reaction, that is when you pass the electricity, electrolysis when it starts, oxygen gas will be liberated at anode, and it immediately combines with the graphite, that is carbon, and forms either carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. The electrons lost at anode will be coming to the cathode, where the aluminium ions, the present in the molten electrolyte used here, they will gain those electrons and convert into molten aluminium, liquid aluminium. That liquid aluminium is taken out from this outlet, and it is found that it is almost 99.9% pure aluminium. So overall reaction that takes place over here is the pure alumina, it combines with coke, that is carbon, to produce aluminium, liberating final product as carbon dioxide.